But inshallah, we'll be continuing with these shows. And this show today is titled A Walk in My Footsteps. And we've had some amazing guests on these shows in the last few weeks. We've had people giving us their insights into their stories, people showing us another side of life that maybe we don't always know about. We've had people from the refugee community, and they've come on and talked to us about the misconceptions people might have about refugees. We may have misconceptions that people have an easy life, that they get benefits, that they're given houses. And we've had people come from these communities and tell us what the situation really can be like. So the whole aim of these shows has really been to give us insights into people who we may have misconceptions about, and to try and work through those misconceptions so that we can better understand each other and be more united, which at the end of the day is all of our aim. So my name is Muhammed Faheem. We're here on Haj Radio, and today we have another incredible guest. Today we have Jamal Moosa from the Riders of Sham. Jamal, do you want to introduce yourself?
Assalamu alaikum to all the listeners out there. As Muhammed Faheem just said, I'm Muhammad Jamal, and I'm from most actively involved with the Riders of Sham, but a member of a few organizations locally.
So tell us a little bit about these. What kind of organizations are you involved in? So I know primarily about Riders of Sham. I know you've been involved in some community efforts to help efforts against the effects of COVID, supporting communities. So just tell us about some of the organizations you're involved in.
So I think originally growing up, my dad and a lot of his friends have always been involved in a local community organization called Khidma organization, and they started their fun days, I think about 21 years ago. And from that sort of involvement, it kind of instilled a sense of charity in me from a very young age. You know, getting involved in giving back to the community, not only thinking about yourself, but doing it, you know, for the greater good, to try to bring, I think their motto is building bridges, bringing communities together, as there's the big Muslim community around Leicester. And back in those days, there wasn't a lot happening for them. And I think originally they set out to fundraise, I think, for the first year for Ummah Welfare Trust. And then they've gone on to help many other charities along the ways and hold many fun days. And then as I had that sort of instilled in me from a young age, I joined Riders of Sham when I was about 16, 17, about 7-8 years ago, and I've been a member of them ever since.
How old are you right now?
So currently I'm 23.
23 years old.
Yeah.
So that's just something I wanted to get in there. We'll keep that in your memories as you continue your effort. Carry on, Jamal.
Yes, but yeah, so I've been a member now with Riders of Sham now for the past 7-8 years, and at the same time, I also chip in wherever I can. Most recently, with Khidma, with the COVID efforts, which they had ongoing, and also the funeral volunteers, which was happening during the peak.
So throughout the year, you've obviously been helping with the funerals. You've been helping with people that have needed food parcels, etc. during this time, and then obviously primarily with the Riders of Sham. So in a basic nutshell, in a few sentences, what exactly is the Riders of Sham for anyone who doesn't know?
So the Riders of Sham, sort of a community, let's say, cycling group. We're not focused on cycling, but sort of the intention is to go out and fundraise with the means of cycling, and it's open to anyone and everyone. And that's in a nutshell what Riders of Sham is. And it started off originally from De Montfort University, from Islamic Society, by a bunch of students. So that's what it started out as.
So you said you were 16, 17 when you started. So at that kind of age, not everybody 16, 17 is thinking about how to get involved in efforts to raise money for charity. So what really got you interested at that time to say, I want to join this Riders of Sham effort?
So I didn't actively go out searching. I didn't go on the internet one day and I wasn't like, it's our charity cycle rides to European destinations. It just happened to be, in my in the Qadr. Like one day I used to cycle to college. So I used to go to Queen Elizabeth College, Wixton College. And I used to cycle. So I was on my bike cycling to college, and a family member approached me who's already part of Riders of Sham, and he said to me, we're part of the cycling group, and I didn't know you cycle, but we're cycling to Brussels in a few weeks or a few months' time. Would you like to get involved? And I, at that time, I was 17. Obviously, like I said, I'd been involved in charity work before, but the idea of going to cycle to another country whilst also doing it for good intentions was like, wow to me. So I was like, straight away, I was like, yes. So as I was young at that age, they're just like, we need to get your parents' permission and whatnot, and you need a guardian at the time to come with you. And then that's how I got involved. And
so did someone from your family go with you then as a guardian?
Yeah, alhamdulillah. So I had someone who was over 18 who could look after me and sign the waivers in case anything happened.
Yeah.
In case I went missing or something. But yeah, alhamdulillah, it just happened. It just happened to work
so
like that.
Did that play an important role? You said there was somebody in the Riders of Sham who was part of your family, and them actually approaching you and letting you know that this opportunity was there. Did that play an important role in you taking that opportunity and joining?
Definitely, that definitely played an important part in me joining. I think being a bit outgoing as well. I think some people might, or I could have shied away from it. I might have just said to myself, I can't do this. I've got college and whatnot, but I was open to the opportunity, and again the intention as well to do it for such a cause, and knowing being involved in that sort of work before as well was like, alhamdulillah, it was a good intention, and Allah kind of presented me with that opportunity. I think many times in your life, you might be approached by someone. For example, someone might be asking you, would you like to donate to this cause? Would you like to give money to this? And what we might not realize is that's like a sign from Allah. Allah's given you the opportunity to donate, and it's up to you then. Would you say yes or no? Do you turn down that opportunity for the reward? And I think that's another reason you need to sometimes say yes to those opportunities, isn't it?
So Jamal, one of the main reasons I was interested in actually having you on the show is, like you said, we're here, we try to battle a lot of the misconceptions that we might have in our communities. And one of the key misconceptions we see, not just in our community, throughout the country, I think, is that our youth are up to no good, that the children have no respect, that young people don't want to get involved in anything productive. But you're sitting here as an example to the opposite of that, 23 years old still, and started this when you were 16, 17. So just talking about the Riders of Sham, would you say there's a lot of young people that are part of that group? What's kind of like the average age maybe of the people that are part of that group?
So when I joined Riders of Sham, as it was quite I'd say older, not older, but compared to me when I was like 16, 17 and everyone else was about 24, 25, it was I was the youngest, and for a while not many young people came. I think it's sort of a niche. It was back then. It was a very niche area. Like cycling, bikes can be quite expensive, and people my age were typically involved in football, like all that sort. Mainly football. No one really wants to go out cycling on the weekends with a bunch of like old men and that sort of stuff. So, it was sort of me on my own for a while, but then over time, especially this year, we've had quite a lot of younger brothers get involved, and
even people in their 20s, still fairly young people, like 23, 24, but like you said, there's younger people that are getting involved. And you mentioned that the actual organization itself was founded in an Islamic society at university. So how old were the guys who started this when they started it?
So I believe they must have been roughly 23 when they started it. So back in the Montfort University or around that age. So I think they were just finishing off their degrees when they came together and formed Riders of Sham.
So like you said, now more young people are joining. This was started by young people. And to me, all of this, what it really shows is it's easy to say young people are up to no good and the young people are not interested in doing anything good. But I think what this really shows is that when there was an opportunity there presented to young people are taking that opportunity. You see more people sign up, more people interested, and more people wanting to come out onto these rides. So I think there's one misconception there, that saying that our young people are up to no good. Some of the young people in our community are establishing some of the best things that we see today in our community. And I think Jamal shows that when there's opportunities there and people who are older, who you might have respect for, call you to those opportunities, it also plays a role in young people taking those opportunities. So I think one takeaway from that might be that, in my opinion, maybe as older people, we need to just guide younger people towards things that they're actually going to be interested in and try to get them involved. Do you have any thoughts on how we could help more youth get involved, not just in like Riders of Sham, but similar activities, just doing good things and useful things for the community?
I think it is very tough as being a younger person in this generation, especially if you compare it to back in, even when I was younger. I remember the time before smartphones as well, and when we used to play out on the streets a lot more. But I think we live now in an age where there's constant distractions, phones constantly going off. You have all these video games. I think typically everyone probably spends the phone's probably become a limb. Like it's to detach it from someone, you'd probably cause them a lot of harm. So there's constant distractions around, and to try like get younger people involved, I think it has to provide some sort of substitute. Like it needs to be entertainment, and they need to see the value in it. And to do that, I don't know. It's a hard question how to involve that. But I think presenting these opportunities, like I know now with Riders of Sham, we have like loan bikes, things like that, to make it more accessible. Because I know when I was younger, when you have you have your friends in football, you have friends going on holidays, like you don't want to be splashing out 300-400 pounds on a bike. That's just like an entry level bike, and then all the equipment. It makes it quite difficult for people to get involved in these opportunities as well. And I know like with other organizations, you have like different like hikes, things to make it a bit more sort of appealing to the younger generation. But I think things like this slowly are sort of paving the way. But yeah, I think a lot of people look up now to your social media, your entertainment, and your social media stars. So maybe sort of utilizing those in the community and trying to get them to instill these sort of ideas into the community.
Yeah, I think it'd be great as well to get more people with good followings, social media followings, people influential in our communities, to just call younger people to interesting ideas. So I think one of the problems people might face is when you try and call young people to ideas which you're interested in and you want them to do, but they don't want to do, that's not going to work. But like as Jamal, he was already interested in bike riding. So when someone approached him with an opportunity to get interested in cycling for a good cause, he was ready to jump in. But I've got another misconception that we wanted to cover when it comes to young people. So a lot of older people will often tend to say that they can't get as involved in good work and they can't get as involved as charity work as a younger person because younger people just have more time. They're just free all the time. Now, as someone who was a young person not too long ago, I know that that's not true. Young people don't just have lots of free time. You're studying, you're working, you've got lots of different things going on. So do you agree with that assessment that someone who might be 35 right now is just so much busier than you are and won't have the time to do what you're doing?
So the question is does an older person have less free time than a younger? Is that what you're saying?
Are you so free that it's so easy for you to get involved into things like Riders of Sham? Is it because you have so much free time, or you're still busy and having to juggle around things to make time for things like Riders of Sham?
So like I know throughout university I was quite busy. You have your dissertation, you have your projects constantly throughout the year. I think it does depend on how much time you're willing to put in. And now being a bit older, I think even when you get married, obviously I just got married recently, but if you have children, it can be quite, you have a lot more commitments to juggle. So in both ways, I think everyone has their own commitments. I think the main thing, what I've realized, it's about making time and managing your time effectively. I know like right now, if for example, I want to do something, if I want to learn Arabic, where am I going to make time to fit into schedule? Like some people might sleep in a bit late, like 2-3 hours on the weekend. I wake up early in the morning, like 9 a.m. to try fit that in. And even with the cycling, when we're training, we wake up about 6-7 a.m. to fit that in, because you got to make time for these things. It's easy. That's
the point I really wanted to draw home, because when you started, like you said, you were about 17, so you had college work. Then when you're at university, you had university work, dissertations, exams, and now of course you're working as well, so you have work life. So it's not as if you were just able to have so much time to do everything. You sometimes your training might take 5, 6, 7 hours. You had to make time for that. So if you had a dissertation, you had to plan around that dissertation in order to be able to go and do that ride with the Riders of Sham at the time that you were planning to do it. So how did you find the balance, and any recommendations for how people can find balances and make time for things which are important to them?
Definitely, I think even ulama recommend it. And I remember one time being in a talk at university on a Jummah prayer, the Jummah Bayan, where Imam Mullah Muhammad Faheem was going through the importance of having a timetable, structuring your day each and every day, so you don't waste time. Because it's easy when you have a lot of free time, especially as a university student. Like, I'm a firm believer of you spend within your means. So if you know you have a lecture at like 11 o'clock, you'll wake up, you'll like aram tea, you'll like take a lot of time to eat and whatnot. So if you structure your day and you account for not even every hour, but if you try to account for as much as a day as you can, then you'll of course you need discipline as well to keep on top of this. You could speak to your parents, you could speak to your family members to try keep on top of you. But if you set a timetable and you try to stick to that, then I think you get a lot more out of your day. And that's why, like, for example, even Islamically, we have a 5 times daily prayers. You have those opportunities to set out certain parts of the day, like you're waking up for Fajr, you're waking up, you have Zuhr, Asr, so that you can plan around those certain times. And I think it's stressed quite importantly in our religion. Like if you go to, I'm sure, like you speak to any alims and whatnot, they'll tell you the importance of setting out a schedule and structuring your time.
I think that's a really good example, actually. So talking about the 5 daily salah, like we don't say we're too busy for them. We make time and we schedule them in because they're very, very important. So if things are important to you, I think the lesson that we can take from Jamal here is you've just got to find where you can make the time in and plan yourself appropriately so you have time to do the things that you want to do. It's not easy to just say that a young person has lots of free time. It's not the case. We have a lot of things to deal with as well. So Jamal was fitting all of his extra activities in around his times. So then the next question I have for you, again, just another misconception. Do you have to be like really fit to start joining and riding with the Riders of Sham? Like I know to do a ride, you'd have to be quite fit to be able to do it. But to get started, to take part in training and to get to that level, do you have to be super fit just to start?
No, you don't have to be. You could literally not know how to ride a bike and have done no exercise at all. I've seen people come from those sort of backgrounds and get involved in Riders of Sham. I think at the end of the day, it comes down to like your mentality and your self motivation. We'll always be willing to help. We'll start off from literally the beginning of riding a cycle, just having like 10-15 mile cycle rides and build the way up. But you need to be disciplined. You need to have that like intention to put in the time, the effort. It's not as simple as saying you're going to wake up tomorrow morning and you're going to be able to cycle 100 miles. I think with anyone, like even right now you have the Olympics on, the Olympic athletes. It's not that a lot of them aren't, it's not that they're talented, but they put in that time and effort. They work for that they work for the stage that they find themselves on. No one is born as an Olympic athlete. Like you work for it, you work hard for it, and that's what Riders of Sham does. And I feel like if you do that, you do work for it, you sort of harness that ability for your rest of your life. Like, you know, if you've worked to cycle 500 miles, that you'll be able to complete your dissertation, you'll be able to complete anything, because once you've done like the hardest challenge of them all these other things that you face in your life, they don't seem in comparison as anything as hard.
So you don't need to be super fit to join. You get started and you've just got to commit and put the time in and the work in. And it's definitely correct everywhere you look at the successful people in life, whether it's footballers, people like Cristiano Ronaldo, people just think that, you know, he's just got a talent and that's all it is. But if you ever listen to him, the amount of hours that he puts into the training pitch is far beyond nearly everyone else, and that's why he's at the top of his game. The next question that I had for you, Jamal, is if anybody, a common feeling that's easy to feel for people, I think, is that feeling of being helpless. So when it comes to things like situations, whether it's in Syria or Iraq or Afghanistan, or you see catastrophes around the world, we have this feeling that, well, there's nothing that we can do. We're just so far away. We can't really make a change. I think that you've proven that is a big misconception, that there are things that you can do. Would you agree with that? No,
I think, I think definitely there's always something that we can do from your community in Leicester. There's so many opportunities to try help those brothers and sisters, and I think to sit back and say there's nothing to do, I think that's kind of failing your brothers and sisters. And I think personally, I think you'd be held accountable to just sit back and say that you can't do anything, because there's always a opportunity. And again, like I said, like if someone approaches you and asks if you can donate, if you can support, even by sharing a message, there's an opportunity presented to you. I think sort of a lot works in those sort of ways. So, like you said, it's not true that you can't do anything. There's always something that you can try and find a way to do. You might not be able to help with your hands yourself, but like what Jamal has taken part in is taking on these bike rides and helping to raise crazy amounts of money for charity. How much has the Raiders of Sham raised to date, if you know off the top of your head? I think currently with this year's ride, alhamdulillah, we're currently on 800,000 raised so far.
Nearly £1 million, mashallah. And what kind of changes has that money made to people's lives?
honestly, it's just like it's surreal. Like you see, also like you can just literally for £40. Like one of the projects that we're doing currently, cataract surgery. You imagine £40 can give the gift of sight to someone, and you wouldn't notice that. Like £40 nowadays, you can end up spending £40 on just a meal, and those little amounts of money can.
I've actually seen, obviously, because I've worked with various charity organizations, I've actually seen pictures from within Syria of there's an entire village that's built for widows and orphans in Syria, and on one of the apartments it says Riders of Sham, because the money that's raised through the efforts of what people like Jamal have done have actually contributed towards building a house for a widow and orphan in Syria. So you can do things, and this is proof that there's things that you could do. The last point I just want to ask you then, we want to leave with something actionable, is we're saying it's a misconception that you can't do anything. There are things that you can do. You just have to be committed and find a way. But what would you suggest to somebody who wants to make a change, who wants to do things, but they don't want to ride a bike, for example, they have another interest? What would you suggest that they do in order to make their desire into something that can actually make a change for people?
I definitely say reach out to people in the community. Reach out to someone that you know has done it, has made it. Because from one thing I've learned from working in or being involved in the charity sector, everyone's willing to help. No one's gonna say to you, no, there's no more space for someone else to come in and help or something. Everyone's always been the most like loving, and like the people you meet are the most caring and kind people. So definitely, if people have already done it, you shouldn't go out and set out on that journey yourself. It's important to like learn from others, learn from their mistakes, and seek nasiha in people. So that's what I would say personally. Yeah.
Amazing advice. So like Jamal, find people similarly minded, doing work in what you want to do, and put your passions to work, inshallah. We can all use a lot of our passions to make a difference. I know people that just love knitting, and they knit scarves and they give them to their baby wards in the hospital. So you can always put your passions to use. Jazakallah khair, Jamal, for joining. Unfortunately, we couldn't go for a full hour today because we started a bit late. But Jazakallah khair to everyone for tuning in, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa